Imagine walking into a restaurant where you order a perfectly grilled steak, and they bring you a plate of gyoza dumplings. You ask for a hot cup of coffee, they confidently serve you orange juice with a smile. You request the chef's special, and you get something that's not even on the menu. And here's the wildest part. This isn't a mistake. This isn't bad service. This is exactly what you signed up for. Welcome to Tokyo's most viral, most heartwarming, and most beautifully chaotic restaurant in the world, where getting your order wrong isn't just accepted, it's celebrated. And the story behind it? It'll change how you see everything. Before we dive into this incredible story, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell right now. Because if this doesn't restore your faith in humanity, I don't know what will. Trust me, you're going to want to be here for this. All right, let's set the scene. It's June 2017 in Tokyo, Japan, one of the most fast-paced, precision-obsessed cities on planet Earth. We're talking about a place where trains arrive within seconds of their scheduled time, where customer service is an art form, and where restaurants earn Michelin stars like they're collecting Pokemon cards. And then, this place opens. It's called the Restaurant of Mistaken Orders, or in Japanese, Shumin wa Mashigeru Ryoriten. And from the moment you walk through the doors, you know something is different. The atmosphere is warm, welcoming, filled with laughter. There are customers chatting, servers bustling around with plates, and an energy that feels more like a family gathering than a typical restaurant. But here's where it gets interesting. You sit down. You look at the menu. You decide you want the hamburger steak, a Japanese comfort food classic. You place your order with your server, who smiles, nods enthusiastically, and heads to the kitchen. You're excited. You're hungry. You're ready. And then your food arrives. But it's not a hamburger steak. It's gyoza dumplings. Or maybe it's a plate of fried rice. Or possibly curry rice. Or something else entirely that you didn't order. Your first instinct? Probably to call the server back and politely point out the mistake, right? But then you look around and notice something strange. Everyone else seems to be getting the wrong orders too. And they're not complaining. They're not upset. In fact, they're laughing. They're taking photos. They're eating whatever showed up at their table with genuine joy on their faces. And that's when it hits you. This isn't a mistake at all. This is the entire point. Because at the Restaurant of Mistaken Orders, every single server, every single member of the wait staff, has dementia. Yeah, you heard that right. Not some of them. Not most of them. All of them. Every server working in this restaurant is living with dementia, a progressive neurological condition that affects memory, communication, reasoning, and the ability to perform everyday tasks. And the mistakes? They're not bugs in the system. They're features, the mastermind, and the mission. Now, before you think this is some kind of exploitative stunt or a cruel social experiment, let me tell you about the people who made this happen, because their intentions were anything but cruel. The Restaurant of Mistaken Orders was created by Shigeru Mizuki, a Japanese television director and producer who'd spent years working in media and storytelling. But Mizuki had also spent time around people with dementia, both professionally and personally, and he'd noticed something troubling: the way society treated them. In Japan, and honestly, in most cultures around the world, there's a massive stigma surrounding dementia and cognitive decline. Families often feel shame. People with dementia are frequently hidden away, isolated from society, treated as burdens rather than human beings with dignity and worth. Even in progressive societies, there's this unspoken rule that once you develop dementia, your productive life is over. You become someone to be cared for, not someone who can still contribute, still find joy, still matter. Mizuki wanted to challenge that narrative head-on. So he partnered with Maggie's Tokyo, a specialized care center for people living with dementia, to create something radical, a space where people with dementia weren't hidden away or pitted, but instead celebrated for who they were, mistakes and all. The goal wasn't to pretend dementia doesn't exist or to romanticize the challenges it brings. The goal was to shift the focus from what people with dementia can't do to what they can do, to create an environment where making mistakes isn't shameful, it's liberating, where imperfection isn't a problem, it's part of the human experience. The first pop-up opened in June 2017 at Toyosu Market in Tokyo, and let me tell you, the response was absolutely overwhelming. People lined up around the block, not because they wanted perfect service, not because they were expecting gourmet food, though the food was actually quite good. They lined up because they wanted to be part of something bigger than themselves. They wanted to support this mission. And maybe, just maybe, they wanted to be reminded that life doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. What actually happens inside? So let's talk about what it's actually like to eat at the restaurant of mistaken orders, because the experience is unlike anything else on Earth. First off, everyone who comes knows what they're signing up for. There are signs. There are explanations. You're told up front, the servers here have dementia, and your order might be wrong. Are you okay with that? And overwhelmingly, people say yes. When you sit down, you're greeted by servers who range in age from their 60s to their 80s and beyond. They're wearing matching aprons with the restaurant's logo, a cute little smiling face with a tongue sticking out, as if to say, oops. They approach your table with genuine warmth, take your order, or try to, and head off to the kitchen. And then the magic happens. Maybe you order a hamburger and get dumplings. Maybe you order hot coffee and receive cold barley tea. Maybe you order nothing at all and still get food delivered to your table. One customer reportedly ordered a simple dish and received a completely different meal 3 times in a row. Each time, the server delivered it with complete confidence and a beaming smile. And you know what? The customers didn't care. Because somewhere between placing their order and receiving the wrong food, something clicked. They realized that the food wasn't really the point. The experience was the point. The connection was the point. The opportunity to see people with dementia not as patients or problems, but as people. People who deserve to work, to contribute, to feel valued. That was the point. There's this incredible moment that went viral online. One of the servers, an elderly woman probably in her late 70s or early 80s, confidently walks up to a customer's table carrying a plate. She sets it down with pride, bows politely in that quintessentially Japanese way, and walks off with the biggest, most genuine smile you've ever seen. The customer looks down. It's not what they ordered, not even close. And their reaction? They burst out laughing. Not in a mocking way, not in a frustrated way, but in this pure, joyful, this is absolutely perfect kind of way. They pick up their chopsticks and start eating, and you can see on their face that whatever they got tastes delicious. Maybe even better than what they originally wanted. That photo, the one you probably saw, shows exactly this spirit. The servers are laughing, customers are laughing, everyone is just present in the moment. There's no stress about getting things perfect. There's no anxiety about meeting expectations. There's just humanity. Raw, messy, beautiful humanity. Now, let's zoom out for a second and talk about why this restaurant is so much more than a cute viral story. Because what's happening here touches on something profound about how we view aging, disability, and what it means to live a meaningful life. Dementia is one of the fastest-growing health challenges in the world. According to the World Health Organization, more than 55 million people worldwide are currently living with dementia, and that number is projected to reach 78 million by 2030 and 139 million by 2050. That's not a typo. We're talking about nearly triple the current number in just 25 years. In Japan specifically, the situation is even more acute. Japan has one of the oldest populations on Earth. Nearly 30% of Japanese citizens are over the age of 65. And with aging comes increased rates of dementia. Current estimates suggest that 1 in 5 Japanese people over 65 has some form of dementia or cognitive impairment. So this isn't some distant, abstract problem. This is the social challenge of our time. And yet, despite how common dementia is, there's still this crushing stigma around it. Families hide loved ones away. People with early-stage dementia withdraw from social activities out of fear and shame. Caregivers burn out in silence. The entire system is built on the assumption that once you develop dementia, your life is essentially over. You just haven't died yet. The restaurant of mistaken orders looks at that assumption and says, absolutely not. Because what Shigeru Mizuki and his team discovered is something revolutionary. When you create an environment where mistakes are expected and accepted, people with dementia can thrive. They can work. They can contribute. They can experience dignity and purpose. One of the servers interviewed after the restaurant's opening said through a translator, "I feel alive here. I feel useful." Another said, "I forget things, yes. But here, that's okay. I can still make people happy." Let that sink in for a moment. These aren't people who've given up. These aren't people who need to be locked away for their own safety. These are people who, given the right environment and the right support, can absolutely still contribute to the world in meaningful ways. Here's where things get really interesting from a psychological perspective. There's this concept in psychology called error management theory, which basically says that humans have evolved to be hypersensitive to mistakes because, in our ancestral environment, mistakes could get you killed. Order the wrong thing? Maybe you eat a poisonous plant. Miss a signal? Maybe you become someone's lunch. So we're hardwired to view mistakes as threats. We get stressed when things don't go according to plan. We feel anxiety when we lose control. This is normal. This is human. But here's the thing. In the modern world, most mistakes aren't life-threatening. Yet we still react to them as if they are. We get frustrated when our coffee order is wrong. We leave bad reviews when a package arrives a day late. We've created this culture of perfectionism where anything less than flawless is unacceptable. The restaurant of mistaken orders deliberately breaks this pattern. By walking into a space where mistakes are guaranteed, customers are forced to let go of their expectations. They can't control the outcome, so they stop trying. And in that release of control, something beautiful happens. They relax. They become present. They remember that connection matters more than precision. There's actually research backing this up. Studies on mindfulness and acceptance show that when people stop resisting what is and start accepting reality as it unfolds, imperfections and all, they experience less stress, more joy, and deeper connections with others. One customer interviewed after dining at the restaurant said, "I came here thinking it would be funny, but it ended up being one of the most meaningful meals I've ever had. I wasn't worried about anything. I was just there." That's the power of acceptance. The viral phenomenon. After the first pop-up in June 2017, something incredible happened. The internet exploded with love for this concept. Photos of the smiling servers went viral on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. News outlets from around the world picked up the story. The Guardian, BBC, CNN, NHK, the Japan Times. Everyone wanted to talk about this revolutionary restaurant. And it wasn't just feel-good fluff pieces. People were genuinely moved. Comment sections filled with personal stories. "My grandmother has dementia, and this made me cry. I wish we had something like this where I live. This is what the world needs more of." The demand was so overwhelming that the restaurant had to return for a second run in September 2017. Same concept, same mission, same beautiful chaos. And once again, it was packed. But here's what made it even more special. The restaurant started adapting based on feedback. They introduced a order what you want, accept what you get policy more formally. They created special events where families could bring their loved ones with dementia to eat together in an environment where no one would judge if confusion happened or if someone got disoriented. They even added little cards on the tables that explained the concept and encouraged customers to embrace the uncertainty. One card read, asterisk, "Orders might be mistaken. Please enjoy it." Asterisk. How beautifully simple is that? Just enjoy it. Whatever comes. Whoever you're with. However it unfolds. The restaurant continued to pop up periodically through 2018 and 2019, each time drawing massive crowds and even more media attention. And each time, the staff, many of whom returned for multiple runs, grew more confident, more joyful, more proud of what they were doing. The global impact zero. Now here's where the story gets even better. The restaurant of mistaken orders didn't stay in Japan. The concept inspired similar initiatives around the world. In South Korea, a similar pop-up opened in 2018. In China, care facilities began experimenting with employment programs for people with dementia. In Australia, a cafe opened where people with cognitive disabilities could work alongside neurotypical staff members. The movement was spreading. And in 2019, a documentary about the restaurant of mistaken orders was released, further amplifying the message. The film followed several of the servers, showing their lives outside the restaurant, the challenges they faced, and the joy they found in their work. One particularly moving scene shows a server named Michiko. I'm using a common name as the documentary may have changed names for privacy, who has moderate dementia. At home, she sometimes struggles to remember her own grandchildren's names. But at the restaurant, when she's serving customers and seeing their smiles, she lights up. Her daughter, who accompanies her to work, says through tears, "I haven't seen her this happy in years." That's the power of purpose. That's the power of being seen not for your limitations, but for your humanity. The documentary also featured interviews with customers, many of whom admitted they came in skeptical but left transformed. One businessman said, "I'm always rushing, always stressed about efficiency and results. But here, I had to slow down. I had to just be, and I realized how much I'd been missing." The film has been screened at film festivals, in schools, at medical conferences, and in care facilities around the world. It's become a tool for education, for advocacy, for changing hearts and minds. The criticism and the response. Now, I want to be balanced here and address some of the criticism the restaurant has faced, because it hasn't been universally praised. Some disability advocates initially raised concerns that the restaurant could be seen as exploitative, turning people's cognitive disabilities into entertainment or a spectacle for able-bodied people to feel good about themselves. Others worried about the dignity of the servers, questioning whether people with dementia could truly consent to being in a situation where their mistakes would be publicized and potentially laughed at. These are legitimate concerns, and they deserve to be taken seriously. The organizers responded thoughtfully. First, they emphasized that all servers volunteered to participate and that family members or caregivers were always present to provide support and ensure consent. No one was forced or coerced into working. Second, they stressed that the goal was never to mock or laugh at people with dementia, but rather to laugh with them, to share in the joy and spontaneity of an unpredictable experience. The servers themselves consistently reported feeling happy, valued, and proud of their work. Third, the restaurant partnered closely with dementia care professionals to ensure that the environment was safe, supportive, and genuinely beneficial for the servers' well-being. Shigeru Mizuki addressed the criticism directly in an interview, saying, "We're not trying to make fun of dementia or treat it as a joke. We're trying to show that people with dementia can still contribute, still find joy, still connect with others. The mistakes aren't the point, the acceptance is. And ultimately, the proof is in the results. The servers keep coming back. The families report positive changes. The customers leave transformed. Something real and valuable is happening here. Lessons for all of us. So what can we, regular people living regular lives, learn from a viral restaurant in Tokyo where the waiters have dementia? I think there are 3 big lessons here. Lesson 1. Perfection is overrated. We live in a world obsessed with 5-star reviews, Instagram perfect meals, and flawless experiences. But the restaurant of mistaken orders reminds us that some of the most meaningful moments come from imperfection. When we let go of our need for control and embrace the unexpected, we open ourselves up to joy, connection, and genuine human experience. Lesson 2. Everyone deserves dignity and purpose. It doesn't matter if you have dementia, a physical disability, or any other condition that society might label as limiting. Every human being deserves the opportunity to contribute, to feel valued, to experience the pride that comes from meaningful work. We need to stop seeing people as their diagnoses and start seeing them as individuals with inherent worth. Mistakes are part of being human. Think about your own life. How many times have you beaten yourself up over a mistake? How much energy have you wasted trying to be perfect? The restaurant of mistaken orders says, what if we just stopped? What if we accepted that mistakes are inevitable, often harmless, and sometimes even beautiful? What if we gave ourselves, and others, the grace to be imperfect? I keep coming back to that image of the servers with their huge smiles, confidently delivering the wrong orders. There's something so pure about it. They're not weighed down by shame or fear. They're just living, being, serving, connecting. And the customers, eating food they didn't order, are having the time of their lives. If that's not a metaphor for how we should all approach life, I don't know what is. As of late 2024 and into 2025, the restaurant of mistaken orders continues to pop up periodically in Japan, though it's not a permanent establishment. The concept has become a symbol of inclusive design and compassionate innovation. Shigeru Mizuki and the team at Maggie's Tokyo have expanded their work, advocating for policy changes that support employment opportunities for people with cognitive disabilities. They've consulted with businesses, governments, and care facilities around the world about how to create more inclusive environments. The movement has grown beyond just restaurants. There are now art galleries where people with dementia work as guides, community gardens where they serve as caretakers, and social programs that prioritize inclusion over isolation. The conversation around dementia is slowly changing. More families are speaking openly. More people with early-stage dementia are advocating for themselves. More societies are recognizing that cognitive decline doesn't mean the end of a meaningful life. And while there's still so much work to do, so much stigma to dismantle, so many systems to reform, the restaurant of mistaken orders proved that change is possible. That with creativity, compassion, and a willingness to embrace imperfection, we can build a world where everyone belongs. You know what gets me most about this story? It's not just about dementia. It's not just about a quirky restaurant in Tokyo. It's about all of us. Because we all make mistakes. We all forget things. We all have moments where we're not quite ourselves, where we're confused or overwhelmed or just not operating at 100%. And the question is, what kind of world do we want to live in when those moments happen? Do we want a world that shames us, that pushes us aside, that treats us as burdens the moment we stop being productive in the traditional sense? Or do we want a world like the restaurant of mistaken orders, a world that says, hey, you messed up. That's okay. You're still valuable. You still matter. In fact, your imperfections might be exactly what makes you beautiful. I know which world I want to live in. The elderly woman in that photo, delivering the wrong order with the biggest smile on her face. She's not broken. She's not less than. She's living proof that joy, dignity, and purpose don't require perfection. They just require acceptance. And maybe that customer, laughing as they receive food they didn't order, they're not just being polite. They're experiencing something profound. They're learning to let go. They're discovering that sometimes the best things in life are the ones we never planned for. If this story moved you, if it made you think, or feel, or see the world a little differently, here's what I want you to do. First, smash that like button. Let's get this message out to as many people as possible. Second, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. We're here to tell stories that matter, stories that challenge how we see the world. Third, share this video. Send it to someone who's struggling with perfectionism. Send it to someone who has a family member with dementia. Send it to someone who just needs a reminder that it's okay to be human. And finally, leave a comment below. Have you ever had an experience where something going wrong turned into something beautiful? Have you ever been surprised by joy in the midst of chaos? I want to hear your stories. Because that's what this is all about. Connection, compassion, and the courage to embrace the beautiful mess of being human. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And remember, life doesn't have to be perfect to be absolutely worth living. See you in the next one. Keep spreading kindness. Keep embracing the unexpected. And never forget, sometimes the wrong order is exactly what you needed.